Welcome back again. I know there was an issue. Hopefully now it's working better. So, can you hear me right now? Excellent. Good. So, my name is Tony Chu. I'm the founder and CEO of Renewables in Africa, your global clean energy champion. I have a question for you. IRENA has released a report on financing renewables energy, and I want to know whether you've had a chance to have a look at it. Did you have a chance to look at it? Do you understand this report? Were you able to extract the right information for you? If that's the case, I want to hear your opinion. I want to know what you're talking about. But before I just carry on, let's just check first of all. Do you understand now? I think now the sound is working just because I've done a test myself. First of all, I must apologize for people that were watching me before, right? So that's actually what you're having as a challenge when you're going live. But now we're back on track, and I can see and I hope that you can understand me well. So I was talking about the IRENA report. Have you had a chance to have a look at that? Do you understand it? If not, that's what we're going to be saying. Before we dive further into that, let me just say that what we're doing here, I'm hoping it's actually useful for three kind of people, three type of people. You have the investors who are looking to invest into the sector, don't have enough insight, and some of them holding back, right? Then you have the professionals saying that, hey, I want to jump into the sector. I want to expand into it, but let me get and collect some more information so I know what is the direction of travel that should go with me. And you also have the businesses saying that, hey, I want to decarbonize, I want to contribute, I want to have solar rooftop, I want to have wind, but how can I get confident to see and find out whether it's really gonna help me, my production, my business, gonna help me to grow and to make my money and to make saving as well, just to control energy costs. These are the kind of answered questions that people have. And what I'm saying here is by you listening to us, you're gonna get a lot of answers. If you don't believe me, you just have to look at all the videos we've been publishing so far. There's a lot there, right? There's a lot. And I'm pretty much sure that at least a couple will be of interest for you. And what I want you to do, three things. Number one, you want to subscribe to our channel, right? We're publishing and we're broadcasting from 5 platforms. We have LinkedIn, we have YouTube, we have Facebook, we have Twitter, and we also have Telegram. Whichever one works for you, go with it. Ideally, you want to subscribe to all of them. Don't just subscribe. Go for the notification button, if there is any, for example, in YouTube, just to make sure that whenever we have a new video, you are aware, right? That's what I want to talk to you about. Now, coming back to the topic, right? The cost of financing, well, or maybe talking about this report that the IRENA has released. Why would it be important at all for you? Did you ask yourself this question? Because I know many reports have been pushed out there, they've been released, but do people actually read it? Do they understand what's in it? Do they know how to apply it? That's the reason we're having these kind of videos, right? It's not just to entertain you. I love to entertain you. Yeah, I love it for sure. But at the end of the day, I know that if I'm not giving you the value, if I'm not giving you the information that you're looking for, you're not going to be listening, isn't it, right? So the whole point for us is to make sure that we help you to extract the main information that's going to be useful for you, right? And this is what we're doing. At least if you don't have the time to read it, I hope you're still going to read it. At least you can already extract some information that will be useful to you. Now, the report, let's go back into that. Let's go back into this report. So I thought it was a very interesting report. Yeah. So why am I saying that? First of all, it is very comprehensive. You have about 172 individual responses that have gone through that, from people in 45 countries, across 6 continents. And that is great. And you're essentially looking at mature technologies. We're talking about onshore wind here. We're talking about offshore wind here. And obviously, we're talking about solar PV. So in that, it gives you a good understanding where we are in terms of cost of financing. And if you are asking yourself, what could it be? Because you actually targeted some countries, but you want to know what is that you should be targeting in terms of cost of financing, especially, for example, if you are a developer, you're an investor. Yeah, that's what this report will give you. So what I can, for example, say, the first information I'll tell you is there's a big difference in terms of cost of capital across countries and technologies. I'm sure you wouldn't be surprised me saying that, right? And what is the range we're talking about here? We're going to from 1.1% on onshore wind, that's in Germany, all the way to about 12% for solar PV in Ukraine. Obviously, as you can imagine, with what's happening in Ukraine at the moment, that would justify why the cost of capital will be quite high over there, right? So hopefully it won't stay like that for long. Because there's a big difference. Yeah. And now when we're looking at the different continent, so in Europe, because the renewable energy market it's maturing at a faster pace over there, cost of capital obviously is low. We're talking about average of 4.4%. And then in North America, not a great market, so we're talking about 5.4%. Yeah, so that's what we're looking at. 4.4, 5.4. That's what you have in North America. Now, if you go to emerging market, that's also where we have a lot of growth, right? Asia Pacific, that's what we're talking about. Latin America, Africa. What are we saying? So I'm sure you won't be surprised to hear that. Obviously, the rates are higher there. The cost of capital is higher there. So we're talking about Asia Pacific 5.6%, Latin America 6.9%, and then both for Middle East and also Africa, we're looking at higher percentage. So highest will be around 8%, even more than that. Yeah, but that's what the report is already telling you. Definitely, that means that looking at technologies, looking at obviously countries, you would see a difference. And I've given you a range what you're looking at. Yeah, essentially 1.1% all the way to 12%. Yeah, and depending on what content you're going to, you would see those differences. That's the one thing you want to find out and extract for this report. Yeah, it's important. So the second thing that I could say, because you could be thinking, okay, it's kind of normal, right, to have difference in terms of technologies and in terms of countries. They're not the same. Some markets just a lot more mature than others, and some technologies like solar PV, definitely, yeah. So we would expect that to be less risky than offshore wind, for example, right? But what about if we are within a same country? At least can we see some um, stability there, or at least are we able to come up with one figure? And the answer that the report is giving us is not quite, not really. Yeah. So, and in Spain, for example, right, you will see the cost of capital that range between 36% below the average, the European average, all the way to 72% above. It depends where you are in Spain. Yeah. It very much depends where you are in Spain. That's where you see that difference. Same thing for Italy, right? So 43% below up to 44% above. It pretty much depends on the developer, on the kind of offtake arrangement that you have, but also some project specific factor. Yeah, so that's the second key information that you can extract from the report. It means that when you go and invest into one of those countries, it matters. In what region you actually wanting to invest or develop your project. You want to find out about that, and that's what the report is telling you. Don't just assume that it's exactly going to be the same like the average. What the average gives you, it's a first figure for you to start doing your simulation, right? To build your initial model. But as you go deeper into the project, you probably want to be looking at that a little bit closely. Yeah, that is what you're getting from the report. But also, it's good to have those kind of marker, those kind of benchmark, because when you have those benchmark, right, depending what project you're into, so and the specific figure that you're getting for your project, you will know whether you are actually within the range, the normal range, or you quite far apart. Yeah, and if that's the case, course correction. What kind of action can I take in order to make sure that I can come back within the recommended range or the publicized range? Yeah, that's the kind of information that you're getting, and is a very, very, very important one. And basically, based on that, there's a number of factors that would influence such such a figure, the cost of capital. And that's what I want to share with you. I want to show you some graph here that is good for us. And I'm just going to finish off by the one thing I believe that you should know about, right? Very important, which is kind of what I've already started sharing with you. But that's one thing, there's one thing I guess you want to know, right? So, talking about here the financing structure of the sector. So of cost of capital. What is that we see again? Yeah, important to check that. What is that we see again? So what we can see, for example, first of all, this a top diagram, right? So on the uh left hand side, top left hand side, yeah. So what we're seeing here is project finance is dominating the investment structure for the sector. Yeah, pretty much everybody prefer to go and do that. So especially in Europe. Why in Europe? Because the market is much more mature and off taker as well. So I guess more credible, and or at least you have more credible that you can find there than maybe some other region. So project finance, go without say. So what is project finance? I'm sure many of you listening to me, you will know that already, yeah. But just to clarify very quickly, in case you happen to be stumble across the video and you just say, "What is Tony's? What does it mean by project finance?" And essentially, it's a way to fund the project without you having to put in any collateral from your company or maybe individually. Yeah. Basically, the financing just relies on the actual strength of the project that will generate revenue. And it's based on those revenue that somebody is lending you money. Yeah. So that's what project finance is all about. And it's very, very popular as we could see. There's only 6% of people that will go on balance sheet, that will have project on balance sheet, right? And I'm sure you can understand that, right? So why would you go on balance sheet if you're not really specialized into power generation? Because it's not just about installing the system. You want to be thinking about looking after the system, maintaining that over the 25-year period that is actually supposed to work, right? It's a lot easier just to have power as a service. Somebody that is experienced doing it will get the job done. You get the power that you need, and that's it. You sign in between an agreement. Yeah. And what's this agreement about? And that's what the second graph I want to talk to you about, right? In the just move across to the right. You could see here the type of financing mechanism that people are using. Again, what is dominating here? Power purchase agreement. That you can see 43%. Significant. That is clearly what we could see. Yeah. So whereby as a developer, you sign an agreement with an off-taker over the period of time. Yeah. And there you go. You get the revenue that's generated. So that's clearly what is dominating. So beside that, what would you have as well a way to fund it? You have the feed-in tariff. That's when obviously you have government that would obviously put policy in place whereby there is a predetermined rate tariff that you would get when you build a project, especially with either government agencies or government or utilities. Yeah, so that's what would happen. And people, when they go and have those feeding tariff that are guaranteed, that's great. Yeah, so I mean, that when you're building your model, you have something like that, money that's coming in that you can determine. That's great. Yeah. Another way, so we're looking at what contract for difference, whereby obviously again, that's also intervention from the government, whereby they will pay you for the difference in case what you have negotiating with the off-taker seems to be lower than uh, an agreed price for you to make the project successful. Yeah. So that's what the contract for difference is. But obviously, if you're above that, so you may want to pay back to the government. So those are the kind of policy that we could see. But clearly, project finance, PPA, that's really what dominates the market, and that's what we could see. And a lot of this project, there's clearly emergent exposure here. We're talking about the variability in terms of pricing here, currency here. So definitely it plays a big role. And more than 50% of people that responded recognize that. Yeah, they recognize that cost of capital, merchant exposure to the market, to currency fluctuation, it's a big part. It can either be an opportunity that for you have to exploit, or it could be a threat. But clearly, it has a play, and you probably want to be looking at that. And that's the kind of thing that we will be able to see into the report, and it's good to have a look at, right? So what it means here, as a new developer, if you want to go into the market and you see here that project finance 88%, that's the way people are funding the project. If you don't know what is project finance, if you don't understand that properly, guess what is the next thing that you need to do? Yeah. And the same thing as well. Yeah. Well, even if you're a policymaker, if you don't have a proper understanding, you want to get to know that. Yeah. Or if you know that you're going to be putting in place some policy to incentivize the market, you want to make sure that you get to know clearly what it's all about. If that's not the case, go and train yourself. Capacity building, it's important. Yeah, same thing. You want to understand, if you're looking at what kind of mechanism can we put in place to boost the sector. Don't reinvent the wheel. Look at what other people have done. Contract for difference, power purchase agreement, preferential tax treatment, renewable energy certificate. Those are all methods that you can employ for you to move the sector forward into your country. Let me just move now into the next slide very quickly before I sort of wrap up. So it shows here the what you were saying before, the cost of capital that is different per country, right? You could see that here in the US go from 5.4% in the US, all the way to what we have 7.6%. That's Brazil, right? So, or you have in Europe, it's relatively low in Central Europe, and some other places, like for example in Ireland, 9.9%, maybe because of the island situation of the location of Ireland. So don't really know how, but you can see here also Ukraine, 12.2%. Yeah. So you go to Asia, same thing. You would see it could be as low as 3.9%. That looks like likes to be likely in China, 7.1%, in India, Australia 4.6%, and then in Africa, right? In fact, that is the one thing as well I found out in the report. So there wasn't a lot of responses coming from Africa. Yeah. So what they have is specific country we're talking about here: South Africa, Kenya, Egypt, Morocco, Tunisia. Yeah, so there is I'll say not a lot of information. That means for me there's definitely room for improvement there, right? Because a big portion of the sub-Saharan Africa is not captured there. It's also important to say that the African market, compared to what many people may be thinking, is very small when you look at obviously what is the global scale of solar PV, for example. It's very small, right? So yeah, that's probably also why you don't have a lot of response. But clearly there's a room for improvement there, and that you could see. So such a graph gives you an idea of where we are in terms of the cost of financing. And definitely I say you want to dive into that if you haven't done it yet. So going forward, yeah. So you will see that as well for onshore wind. Same kind of remark that I made for solar PV. Very low in US, Europe, and emerging markets. You could see cost of capital seems to be higher. That is a trend. Yeah, another mature technology. So for offshore wind, yeah, obviously nothing in Africa at the moment for offshore wind. But the other continents, so Asia, Europe, and North America, you've seen some, and offshore wind as well. Because in offshore wind, most of the time we talk about big project, so you have economy of scale there. So, and obviously most of the time the off-taker will be either sizable or they will be government. So I guess that can explain as well why, to some extent, we have a low cost of capital. So that's what the report is giving you, and it's very much important. So let me just finish up with one thing I promised to you that is important for you to understand. Yeah. And I've been dripping here and there some information to help you to understand that final information that I want to share with you. And it is this: the cost of capital is pretty much variable at the moment. Yeah. It varies a lot, basically. Yeah. But the one thing that we all should agree in saying is it matters. It matters tremendously. So how does it matter? Yeah. Just wanted to give you an example. Yeah. You know that for cost of capital, so if you making a mistake by, for example, 2% cost of capital as opposed to 10%, there's just an 8% difference here, right? Well, guess what? This will have a big impact on the cost of electricity, in the end, up to 80%. Yes, an 8% difference in cost of capital can have an 80% difference in the cost of electricity. And that is one key information. When I looked at the report, I saw that was a wall. That's actually very, very interesting. And the report themselves, they're saying that they recognize that it's so different, the cost of capital, that you have to be very careful when you're actually working that out. It's very, very important, because the previous information that were pushed forward, right? I think some of them may not be as accurate as we may have thought, right? Clearly important, because, like I say, just a small 8% could be quite big already. But look, 8%, you have 10 times the impact. Yeah, 8% difference in the cost of capital, 80% difference in the cost of electricity. And that's a key information. When I saw that, I was like, this gotta be known. So that means that, first thing, when somebody's sharing, giving you the cost of capital, you want to understand how that person worked that out. And maybe you as well making sure you're making your own verification. And if you're doing that and you're getting this information, yes, you make sure that, yes, you actually preserve yourself making some big mistakes. I can see here, so Simon Abels from Kenya has been listening. Hey, Simon, good to see you. And then if you were there before when we had the first go and where we had a problem, I do apologize. Yeah, because like I said, there was a problem. So this is the second take, right? Hopefully now everybody can understand me. And then but I still wanted to give the information that I promised I was gonna do, right? So so if you have any questions, Simon, I'll pick it up. Otherwise, I'm just gonna wrap it up, because I wasn't planning to be here for so long, but I had to make sure that I record something that you could get, because it was the point for me to advertise, a talk, a live. If I'm not able to share that with you. Yeah. So I don't think that there's a question from Abel here, or Simon Abels. So if there is, just drop it, and I'll say that. But it doesn't matter. Even if you happen to see that afterward, drop me a question. Let me know what you think, right? The cost of capital. So are you doing the project at the moment? So what do you think about the cost of capital? So what has it been? Does it correlate with what the information, what the report is saying? So for your region, so are you matching with that? So those are information that would be good. Especially, as I say, I've noted that they want a lot of responses coming from Africa. So that's the opportunity, guys, to drop me a comment if you're listening, to tell me what have you seen in your area, so that we can make sure that next time when IRENA is doing such a report, we can tell them, hey guys, you want to make sure that you get a lot more information from the continent, right? Because that's important for us. Okay, excellent. I'm just gonna stop at this point. I don't see any question, at least not now, but usually I have questions when people come later. But I just want to, first of all, thank you for listening to me, supporting me. Apologies again once for the error that we had, the technical challenge that we had. But hopefully you still get this information. It's still useful to you. And we can have a lot of things that we can share together at our next live, right? Which is no later than tomorrow. Have a great day, and I'll speak to you very soon. Take care. Bye-bye.